Welcome back, everyone, to a session on Selenium automation frameworks using WebDriver. So what we're going to do is we're going to move forward with this session, introducing how it's going to be working and what we're going to be covering in this specific topic. All right. So I know it's a new live batch that has joined in, but just to let you know that as part of what we're going to do today, here are the topics at a high level. Now, if you have already heard me, my voice is bad. It's not that clear, unfortunately, because of my throat. It's a little down. I hope it's audible. I hope you're all able to still hear me fine, and we should be good with the session then. So here are the four main things that we're going to cover in this session. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what is it that you should have already learned before you have come into this specific session, because there are a lot of prerequisites, as the viewers would have noticed from my initial orientation session. After which, I'm going to go quickly over introducing what a framework is. Then we'll talk about what a keyword-driven framework is specifically and how we're going to go about creating it. So that's the plan for this session, about 30 minutes. And at the end, I'll take a few questions. After which, we're going to get into a second session of getting deeper into the plan. So before we get started, the prerequisites. Like it has been mentioned in this orientation session, that you would find under the Selenium new bite-sized videos, you would see that this orientation session will walk you through all that is needed for you to get before you join this session. So please make sure that you watch this live orientation session. That is one. Second, after you've done watching this 30-minute session, you should have gone to the other section where under live trainings, there is the section where we talk about Selenium IDE, Core Java, and so on. I want you to watch some of these videos here, please. Not some, in fact, everything. It's about 18 hours of content, but if you put together as a focused approach to watch the videos, you would be going through each of these concepts. So in here, some of those basic building blocks to becoming really a master Selenium automation tester is here. All right. Right from how you work with IDE, how do you go about identifying elements, what are the basic fundamentals of core Java for an absolute beginner, what Selenium WebDriver is all about, and trying to create a simple data-driven framework using it. Once you have gone through these videos, that is when you should go and look at this. Now, let me ask a quick question. How many of you have not gone through all of these videos as instructed? I should have made a poll out of it, but I didn't. So I'm just asking. You could say no for not gone through in the chat. So overall, I would know how many yes and no. So I see one yes, many no's, yes, yes, no, no, yes. Okay. Wow, that's a lot. So there are about 86 attendees in this session today. So I'm sure that there are many things, but I just wanted to look. So I'm assuming some of you have gone through partially. All right. So here is how it's going to work. My intent is to try and cram together a lot of content into 1 week. Okay. So it's a very, very fast track 1 week. Okay. So if you have already in this session, stay with me. Okay. We will continue it. Get a good grasp of what I've done, what I've shown. I'm showing in these 5 days and so. Okay. Then after it is done, go back to the starting of this page. All right, start from the beginning again and watch the videos, and this time practice on the tool. Within a month's time, team, spend about 2-3 hours a day. You will master Selenium. All right, and that is for sure. Now, the only thing you got to understand is the fact that sometimes people overdo and overthink in terms of programming. Do not overcomplicate it. It's very simple. I have explained it. What you got to learn, how you got to learn. This is all there. You don't have to look anywhere else. Okay. So focus with me, stay with me, and we will get going with that, accomplishing that goal. So that is your prerequisite, please. Now, going further, I'm going to introduce you what a framework is at a high level. I'm going to talk about how it's going to work, what it does, and so on. So primarily, team, if you notice, a framework is a very simple thing. It's a concept wherein we let me take a simple Word document and talk about it. All right. So let's assume a scenario where we're talking about a framework, right? All right. So let's talk about a building. All right. What happens with buildings is initially a framework is built, and that is made out of a foundation plus the beams or the columns slash support, right? Then we have um, the overall piping and all the electrical works, and we have the um, sanitary work and so on, right? So a basic layout is made, right? So that is the framework that is created. Now, once this basic framework is created with the basic design, you could customize anything into it. All right. So I could use the same framework. Let's say I call this as A and build 100 different types of houses. How? By changing where the walls will come, by changing how I divide, how big my rooms are going to be, where I'm going to be putting what, and so on. So this ability to create something that is a standard, all right, to building something, to building a custom solution for future. That is what a framework is, team. So you will, I mean, again, don't count me on a specific definition. But what we're trying to do is put together something standard, something rigid, to what you could customize over a period of time and develop many models out of it. So if we are doing a car manufacturing, first they will do a clay model, right? About 1/10 the size or so. Then they would do an actual working prototype, right? Then they would go about creating the factory settings, factory setup for for really manufacturing these cars now, right? So you start with one framework and say, for this model going forward, this is the framework we're going to use. So this factory is set up to bring out many versions of the same looking cars. Let's say we're talking about an Honda Accord. So for Honda Accord, there is a framework that is set up. The same thing if we talk about, let's say, a Honda CRV or a Pilot, then there is a different framework, but there could be some commonalities, but the way it is done is different, right? Similarly, let's talk about even a human. The skeleton is your basic framework. Almost for all humans, not almost, for all humans, typically the skeleton structure is same in terms of how the bones, how many bones are there, okay, and how they are attached together with each other and so on. What changes is probably the length of these bones, the height of the whole human, what kind of a body structure is given to that person, right? What kind of a skin texture, hair color, and so on. So that is the variation of the customization that you're going to be doing later, right? So these frameworks, from an automation or a testing standpoint, are basically designed to create something that can be reused later in a standard manner, so that it would help us to do a certain few attributes in terms of achievements. Now let's go back to see, at least for these few models, what is it that we did. Is my font big enough, or should I increase this font? I don't think it is that big, right? I should increase this font, right? There you go. So I've increased the font a little, not so much. So it's, yeah, much more legible for you. So if you look at this, and if you look at this, this also, what is the basic reason that we are doing all of this? Can you guess? Sorry, guys. The reason is, number one, we are saving time, right? So that If I had to custom build something for everyone, then it is different. Look at IKEA, for example. They will assemble everything together in a box. All right, in a box, not assemble, but put in a box. You assemble at home, right? So they can use the same framework for everything. They can reuse it at a lot, right? And over a period of time, there is some reliability for that. Okay, since we are doing the same thing over and over, we expect it to be more accurate. We expect it to be more reliable as a product. Okay, so this is very important. You're overall saving time. Time saving is not only to create initially, over a period of time, maintenance, all right, and so on. All of these things are important. So in basic, for automation testing, a framework is used to truly get improved efficiency in what we do, truly reusable so we can apply the same thing over and over again, and it needs to be accurate so that it is really giving us the right results. So what is automation testing from a basic building block? You are doing a testing as a process manually. For example, this is the application we're going to work with more on this, creating the framework, which is something that has come up new from our end. QA on Air is an application, right? It has specific functionality. If I need to hire a team of test engineers to really go and test this application, they will be involving into this to create test cases, what needs to be tested, and then they put in all the scenarios together to create it, right? Why is this page not loading here? Let me try on a different browser. We just between the browsers right now. Let's see. My internet is fine, otherwise I have no way to interact with you, and I assume my site is not down. Any application team, even if it's a Google application and so on, doesn't matter. So let's say we're talking about this consultants, right? So as a test case, simply, what is it that I want to test? I want to test, okay, as a test case 001, I will call, okay, if uh, title, all right, content, text, labels, fields are all present. So what is supposed to be there? Are they present? So if you look at a manual test engineer, they're going through it and see, hey, does it have the right title? What is expected? What is the uh, what is the thing that you're looking at right now? What is live on the application, right? Is this the right heading? Is this the right content for it? Are the fields rightly aligned? Is everything good, and so on? So you going ahead with testing so many things, right? So for each thing you'll write a test case, and you'll say that test case 002 is ensure uh, uh, candidates or consultants can fill this form. All right, so as a manual testing you will write, all right, how each of these test cases needs to get executed, and then you'll go about doing it. Now, to move from a manual to an automation, you need to make sure that these three things are met. It has to get more efficient, it has to be reusable, and it has to be accurate. That's the main thing. And through do this automation, you have many ways. Okay, one is basically record a script for each test case and put it, all right, but it has a certain downfall. What is it? It is efficient because it will run fast, but maintenance will be high, so you're losing some amount of efficiency over a period of time. It can be reused uh, over and over, and it may be accurate, right? So there is something that is going down. Okay, so high maintenance. If you look at the next model, probably a simple test, custom test that you wrote. All right, with the custom test you have created all of these things, but it probably is again tough on maintenance, because every time the application changes you have to go and do something. All right, and it is not necessarily efficient also, because if I want to test this for multiple sets of data, then it's a problem, right? Look at this another situation in this case, team. Is everyone with me? Are you all able to gauge what we're trying to do out here? Anyone who's truly lost so far? because it's a layman term, it's a layman presentation right now. So even if you're from a non-IT background, you should typically be able to capture, because I've really not gone into the subject yet. All right, great team. Thank you so much. Appreciate the feedback. So if you look at test case 001, this, there is, if I test it once, it is good, right? I will go once to the page and see if everything is good, all fine. Next. How about test case 002? Ensure consultants can fill this form. To do this, I have to do what? Fill this form once, submit it, done. All done. Good, right? But then you'll see, hey, what if I change the country? What if I don't enter all the information? What is it supposed to do? What if I choose between an on-site, a remote, or this radio options? How does the content change, or how does the application behave when we change the data? And that is where you will see that the efficiency dies down. So the amount of output for each of these things that we do is also dependent on for which test case is it that we're doing. Okay, so a custom test for this is fine, or even a record and run. So record and run, keep it aside, good. Every time you want it, you run it and make sure that it is happening. Okay, or even a custom test where you are parameterizing, all right, you're creating some variables, and you are exactly saying what to do and so on, better. But if you want to keep changing the data, then you may want to do a data driven framework. So what does this do? More importantly, it increases the efficiency of running the tests itself. Okay, so for a whole automation effort is into three things, team. All right, first is creating it, then it is running it, then maintaining it. All right, so there are three efforts. So if you look at the comparisons that you'll be able to arrive towards the end, sometimes creating is easy, sometimes running is tough, or maintaining is tough. Okay, when I say tough, running is not giving the best results. So if you try and put them all into an Excel and say that, hey, I would like to analyze which framework does what for each of them, you will be able to make a good decision and a judgment towards it. So I'll say what is the framework or test here. Okay, then creation. All right, running is basically execution, we'll say. How is, what does execution help us? Maintaining, creating. So keeping the same tense in the message. All right, so, and again team, just to let you know, I'm sure most of you are aware, I come with very impromptu manner to this session, so I never really prepare myself upfront that this is what I'm going to do, but I know what is the topics I need to present, and that this is the flow for it, and as we go along we're going to build it. So control B. So I'm giving you the overview of a framework and what a keyword driven framework is going to do. So in this session right now, I'm going to talk about record and run, very basic initial. Then parameterized test, I will say. You're putting some parameters to it. So you'll say that, okay, if first name is this, what will happen? If a first name is a number, what would it do? If an email is not proper, what would it do? If a radio button is not selected, what would it do? So you are able to choose those options there. Then we will talk about something like a functional, a simple framework with functions. I don't even treat this as a real framework because it's very basic framework. Again, what we gotta do is zoom this so you have a better visibility. 200% and bring this here. All right. So this could be a good analysis chart for you for future also. Then we're talking about a simple data driven framework. Then there is something next called a keyword driven framework. Okay, then for a KDF itself, I will say there's a script free version. All right, then you can create something like a hybrid, and then a combination of all of these. So the primary differentiators in all these frameworks, or what they do team, are these. How long does it take to create? How long does it take to execute? How long does it take to maintain? So if I say on a scale of 1 to 10 as a scale, record and run is 1, then this would be 2. Probably framework with functions could be 3. This could be 4. This could be 6. This could be 8 and 10, something like this. So it's kind of an exponential increase in the amount of sorry team, in the amount of effort involved to create it. So if my lead comes and says, hey, create a script for me, I would opt this. Why would I opt this, team? I would opt this option because they want it quickly. But if my overall IT leadership says that, listen, you know what, let us go about creating an overall automation strategy for 2014, then I would go down further because I have more time to create it. They're not asking me for a result tomorrow. From an execution standpoint, in terms of efficiency, how quickly a test is running, all right, or how quickly am I able to do things for execution, this could be reverse. All right, you could 10, 8, 6, 4, 4, whatever, and so on. From a maintenance standpoint, again, it varies. So this may be that it is so easy for you to maintain a record and run because only one script. Okay, but every time the application changes, you have to do something. Data changes, you have to go there because it's not even parameterized, right? So with these constraints, it is tough. So again, something like this kind of a data being built there. At the end, there is a total of what it is. Now, as an individual, what you need to do is you need to scale them or give them a rating of how critical is creation. Do I want it tomorrow? Do I want it next week? Do I have 3 months? Do we have the qualified people in the team? Do we have the approval from the management to really go in that direction? Once we have that, then you can say that, okay, creation has a scale of 10, this has a scale of 20, maintenance is most important, let's say we'll say 50. So you multiply it and then add it. Okay, some kind of a multiplication or weightage that we can say. All right, so I'll say the weightage for this is 10, the weightage for execution is very important, I'll say is 25, maintenance is also important, I'll say 30. So now, as a formula, sample formula team, okay, I'm not going to do anything complex, is this star this, and I'm going to put this as $B, $9, because this won't change, plus this star this, and even this dollar and a dollar here. Why am I doing enter? Plus this star this. Again, dollar. There you go. So the score for first one is 560. The second one is 460, 360, 260, and so on. So depending on your need, you have this. So if you're a very simple thing, then this does not matter at all. Hey, you know what? Creating is important, almost equally important as much of this. Then you rather go for something in here. All right, but if a company is there that, let's say, is planning to invest some more time into um, uh, uh, creation, so this does not have too much weightage. The weightage right now is dying down to 2, right? So why is this? Oh, no, no, no. In fact, so 10, what happened to this? 2 start 25, the weightage, that's because, no, actually this is reverse numbers things. This is not supposed to be that way. This is creation is easy, execution is not much. So I need to work on this exact maths to get this correct, because see what's happening is when I want to create a framework, how much effort am I taking? Low effort to high effort, right? So this is low to high. All right, this one execution is efficiency that we're getting is again low, no, not that way, execution takes more time here, so the weight 10. Execution takes more time. Yeah, 10 is correct. Maintenance also takes time. So the total, yeah, it is actually in descending order, team. So the lower the score, the better. Lower score, better. But then this scale will not be correct. 25 into 10. Mhm. No, team, this is not the right analysis. At least in terms of a weightage, I need to correct this. But once you get the analysis of this as to what would be the effort involved to create it, to execute it, and maintain it, you will be able to see how is it going to apply overall in your decision making. So this is more, it is more subjective once we have this data to look at this than a overall formula. So your quantification and decision making should be based on how, where is your application sitting? Is creating important? Then where do you put? Is execution, how much time do we have to execute the test? Then where do we put? And maintenance. What we'll do is offline, I'm going to work a little bit more to make sure that we have the right template. I've done this so many times, but the numbers does not seem correct when I did this finally. So I need to look into the formulas once again and how we are arriving at it. Anyways, so team, put a pin there for me so that I can always come back to you. This anyways, I have to save this, and I'm going to call this quickly as within Selenium December 16 as the estimation, no, automation analysis. So here is a folder that I'm going to be sharing with all of you eventually, along with the videos, where the scripts and everything will be present for you to review. All right, team. Quick time check on how we're progressing. I have covered up to introducing you to a framework. Now I'm going to talk about keyword-driven framework, and then how we go about creating a framework. So, team, any questions on what we did so far, please? Isn't the number of test case changes overall strategy stats? Isn't the number of, yes, it does. And again, see, it's just not the number of test cases. The importance is also on what test case will fall where. So you may have to analyze as to the test case and the categories of it. Not all test cases are going to fit into the same category. So if it's a complex one, it's an easy one, and so on. If you go back to our Word document that we were creating, you would see that, for example, test case 001 is a simple one, is not a very complex. But test case 002, though the text is small, has a lot more to do with it, right? All right. So, team, quick check on my audio. I have two members out of 105 right now who said that the audio is breaking up. Anyone who's having issues with the audio? Anyone else? Okay. Looks like almost everyone else is good. I don't see except for 2 or 3 individuals. Uh, is it choppy? Okay. Let me see why. Because audio is important, team. Once you have a good audio, then we should be going good. All right, team. So far so good. Keep your questions handy, please. I want to take it at the end, and then move forward. Now let's move on with the next one. What is a keyword-driven framework? Now, to really understand what a keyword-driven framework is, the good part is at least you know at a high level what a framework is. And for someone who has seen the data-driven framework videos, know how we create it. The whole concept about keyword driven framework is very simple, team. As the name suggests, we're going to divide the entire test case into keywords. That's number one. So basically your test case is built about a lot of test steps. So we'll say test steps are assigned to specific keywords. So we will say, for example, click on a button. We'll say that is a keyword. We will say that that keyword is assigned to that step. And these keywords are reusable, okay, can be placed, okay. Test cases, I'll say TC, TS, are put together in a format so that we can execute directly from a non-programming tool. So creation of test cases and execution and maintenance can be done without any scripting. So that is the whole idea, team. Execution. So when we get into the end of this sessions, you will see how we are able to create, how we are able to execute, and how we are able to maintain this without specific scripting. Okay, these are the primary things. Now, from a definition perspective, this is what it is. But to really understand how it is done, we have to go about doing it, team. And about 60%, 70% of the way, you will really understand what a keyword driven framework is. At the end, I'm going to put it together so that it is easy for you to then understand what it will do. But basically, you know what is a framework? A set of reusable components that will help us implement a specific standard and custom build it to any application. So in this framework, this will become an application independent. So once I create this framework, I can use it to deploy it on any application with little bit of customization. So for example, with a Honda manufacturing unit, I was saying, right? So for them to manufacture, let's say, a different model altogether, let's say from a sedan of an Accord to a coupe of an Accord, right, which is a 4-door to a 2-door, they don't need to change the entire manufacturing line. They will need to just adjust about 20-30% or few portions of that specific unit. In fact, even not even so much, I guess, right? So that amount of customization is what is required. Okay, application independent, implement with minimal customization. So this is the high level concept, team. But once we go about creating each and everything from ground up, you'll really understand how it's going to be built. Now, in terms of creating a framework, what we're going to do is we're going to put together a plan. Like we're trying to do this analysis, I'm going to use the same template and save this file as a KDF plan. I'm going to call this as KDF plan version 1.0. That's the beginning. The first thing I'm going to do is create the different sheets that I need. So let me align this better. And here, the sheet 1, I'm going to call at a high level the plan. What is it that we want to do? All right. So we will talk about an action or activity. Okay. And a status of completion. Have we done this? Have we completed this? And so on. You could also create a description as a homework for yourself and create what it is. Now, do note, team, the whole process of creating this framework is common, irrespective of what automation tool it is. Is it QTP or Selenium or anything else? Should cells up. What kind of so what automation tool is it, or even to the matter of what application it is, and so on. But then finally towards implementation, we have to do it, the programming and so on. The concept is the same. You can take the same concept. If you know any other automation tool, you can apply it exactly that way. All right, so now what we're going to do with this is talk about the activity. The first thing we will talk about is creating list of keywords. Okay, that is the first thing that we will do, team. So you will understand what a keyword is. You will understand how we go about creating keywords, and we will start creating a list of keywords. Second one we will do is create a test case template. All right, so we'll talk about how do we write test cases, how will we put them together. We will also create a test steps template. All right, this template will say how do we put test steps individually for each test case. Then we would go about building keyword function library. So this will basically contain all the reusable keywords that we've created. So I'm going to call this as reusable keyword function library. Give me a second, team. I'm going to answer my team later. Reusable keyword function library. And then once we do this, then we're going to do something called as a driver script. In fact, before that, test the keyword function library. I'm going to call KFL with some sample test cases. Okay, then we're going to do something called as a driver script, and this is basically the overall engine. This is the main component. This is where we are putting the engine to the entire body of what we're coding. So driver script is the one which will basically read, learn, and do. So basically, it is the one which will go through the test case template of what needs to be done, what test cases to be executed, look at what test steps are there, and go about executing it. Okay. Once we create the test case template, we will create some sample TC, TS, and TD. Test data, test case, all that we'll put together. We will do a debug run to measure what we will be doing. In fact, I don't need to explicitly mention, but some sections are very important. At every phase of what we're doing, we're going to do that. We're going to go about making sure that we test what we've built so far, make sure that it is in line with what we wanted to do, and so on. Okay, this I'm going to call this as a phase. That way we know what phase we are in, and so on. Plus 1. Where is the there you go, borders. Okay, there you go. This full screen is good this way. Right? So a little color team so that we can differentiate between the header and the other sections. I'm going to go a little jazzy, so no more boring random colors. Text, I'm going to put a little white to that background. Not really good. No, stay with black. All right, anyways, so debug run. Then we're going to talk about how we're going to do defect management. Okay, error reporting. All right, then we're going to test on a application under test. Okay, deploy and execute on an application under test. So whatever application we're taking to test it, we're going to do on it. And then maintenance. All right, so here are the different phases that we will go through, and as we go along we will realize that hey, we missed something, and so on. But it's going to be a very logical flow. It's going to be a very, very neat smooth flow of how we're going to go about through each of the steps, team. So this is what we're going to be doing, team. This is the plan continuing from the next session.